session in the revamped virtual mode for the startup ecosystem. We've actually been doing this program for about 4.5, 5 years now, and we are arranging for all the videos to be available on our website in the startup corner, and arrangements for this will be ready within the next few days, and you would be able to go not only for today's program but even all the earlier programs to go and see the various kinds of programs we have run. Predominantly, they were in the field of discussing something specific, which would more in terms of imparting knowledge about a specific aspect of what would be important to a startup, be it how to write a business plan, be it how to do digital marketing, how to do B2B, how to do B2C, so on and so forth. How do you make a pitch to investors? Today, we are actually going to have a session by a young startup which has gone through all this. But before that, let me say a few words about the IIT Alumni Center. This center was started about 12 years back. The membership is across all IITs in the country and a few premium institutions. The idea behind this is it's not a pure social club, but it's also a club. It's a center which is focused towards improving interaction between academia, alumni, and the industry. And the alumni are facilitators in this in terms of to improve the interaction between these two vital things on how various initiatives can be done, research in the labs being brought to the market, how alumni can support industry, how alumni can support the various institutions. And in the invitation which went out, there is a link to our website. We would request you to go into the website and it will give you far more details about this. Today's program is about Planys, and I really don't want to spend too much time. The startup initiative itself will take its own shape. We are having various things in mind. We had indicated a few things in our mailer to you, but we would request you to come back with the kind of things you would like to see in this initiative of startups and the startup ecosystem. The idea behind this is fundamentally that we will try and put together what is really beneficial to the young startups, what is really beneficial to the ecosystem, startup ecosystem in general. I'm really happy that today we have people who have registered from all across the country. There are people who are parts of incubators, who are already young startups. There are people who are considering getting involved in a startup. So welcome to all of you. So with these few words, let me introduce Planys. Tanuj, can you switch on your video and come on, please? Okay, so Tanuj is the CEO and co-founder of Planys. So something I must share here is I have been a mentor to Planys even before this company got incorporated. So it's been a long journey together. So in a way, I know these guys, but they're not here because I have mentored them. They are here because their journey has been interesting. They have raised 3 rounds of funding. They have gone international. They've had their own share of doing things right. They have had their own share of mistakes. They have learned from those mistakes, hopefully. They have pivoted from what they wanted to do originally along the way. So it's an interesting study for all of us. I have requested Tanuj to spend between 45-50 minutes, maybe 55 minutes on the various facets of what Planys has done. And then we will do the question answer session. In my opinion, the success or otherwise of any talk like this or any discussion like this is really in the question answer sessions. So please raise questions. No question is difficult. Please ask all the difficult questions. It will help all the other people who are here attending. And so with this, can I request Tanuj to take on? But before that, a few words about the co-founders. They have chosen that there will be only one person will speak. So a few words about Tanuj himself is an alumnus of IIT Madras and has been involved in Planys right from the beginning, a co-founder. There are 2 faculty members involved, Professor Krishnan Balasubramaniam and Professor Prabhu Rajgopal. And fundamentally, the concept of Planys came out of the strength of the non-destructive technology and how it was adapted. So in NDT, if we were to rank people in the world, I think Professor Krishnan Balasubramaniam will either be number 1 or number 2. He himself is a very modest guy. He will not say that, but if you go into Google, you'll have some 250 pages of the kind of papers he has published. Professor Prabhu Rajgopal is an alumnus of IIT Madras and an alumnus of ICT in Imperial College in England, and is a professor in the NDT lab and a co-founder along with Professor Krishnan Balasubramaniam. We have also 2 other people. Vineet Upadhyay, who's the CTO, and Vineet himself has a passion for, again an IIT alumnus, a passion for developing things. He heads the technology, the product development, and so on in Planys, and has done a brilliant job in this period. And the last guy, Rakesh, again an IIT alumnus, IIT Madras alumnus, who looks after the engineering and the product design. So with these brief words, Tanuj, if you can take over, all of us will mute ourselves and mute the video, and please, thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gopal, for the warm introduction, and good evening, everyone. So as per the broad guidelines given today for the talk, I'll be focusing a little less on what Planys does, but more on the journey and the learnings that we've had over the time. So as a deep tech startup building robotics, entering a new having a sophisticated technology into very traditional sectors, there have been a lot of learnings over the years, and wanted to share that today. Also, those are our 2 cents, means what worked for us will not work for everyone, or we could get lucky, or we got lucky at certain places. So, so I will just share my screen.
Yeah, Gopal. Okay.
Yeah. Can you just confirm if my screen is visible, someone?
Yes, it's visible. Yes.
Visible
Okay,
in.
okay, great. Yeah. So thank you so much once again. So Planys is a startup, as Mr. Gopal mentioned. The origins was from IIT Madras. It started from labs and eventually became a company. And today I'll be broadly covering Planys' journey, as I mentioned, some key milestones we did, learnings at these different points, and where are we today. And accordingly, happy to answer any further questions that anyone may have. So, Planys, we're proud to be pioneers in India when it comes to marine robotics and underwater NDT. So, NDT is a term I'll be using very often. So, it stands for non-destructive testing, and X-ray and MRI are NDT techniques in healthcare. That's what that. Similarly, there are different NDT techniques for underwater inspection. So, without breaking the structure, we get to know what's happening inside, and accordingly, the health of the structure is known. And overall, we have close to 5 years of experience working across infrastructure sector, which is dams, bridges mainly, marine, which is ports and shipping, and then broadly energy and utilities, which is oil and gas, petrochemical, and thermal plants. Overall, the company till today has completed 160 contracts. So we've inspected 160 assets globally with this technology. And we work all across India, with our headquarters being in Chennai, and we have offices in the Netherlands and Saudi Arabia. So that's a quick gist of what Planys is and what we do today. And Mr. Gopal has already introduced the founders, so I'll skip that. And the team overall has over close to 9 years of experience of working together in this technology. So the origins was out of tinkering labs of IIT and dual degree theses that came out, and then eventually that started up as an incubated startup. And today we employ close to 100 people, 85 full time and the remaining in part time. And it's a multidisciplinary team with expertise across all domains of engineering broadly that's required for robotics, along with ocean engineering, NDT, and so on. So a very strong team, and overall our approach is more research driven, and we look at fundamental sciences going down right down to the physics of things, and we also look at modern tech. So it's we use everything to build the solution that today we have in the market. So to begin off, we were incubated in 2015 at IIT Madras Incubation Cell that has several startups, deep tech startups incubated, very well known as well in the industries today, in their respective industries. And since we were the alumni and faculty from IIT Madras, it was very obvious to choose the IIT Madras Incubation Cell to move forward for incubation. So the problem that we cater to broadly is the aging infrastructure problem. So India has a lot of bridges, over 300,000 railway bridges, highway bridges, some famous ones being the Pampan Bridge in Tamil Nadu, the Mumbai Sea Link, the Rajiv Gandhi Sea Link, and so on. Also, India has a lot of fresh water, hence a lot of rivers, hence a lot of dams. So that's close to 5,000 major dams and then several other minor dams. And then about a very large coastline, which also means a lot of ports and a lot of maritime activity. So that's the overall asset size that we're looking at. And these age with time, with cyclones, with aging infrastructure, with water not being very friendly. These do deteriorate with time, and it's very important to ensure the health of these assets are good. Else, they will eventually lead to catastrophic failures, and that will lead to loss of life eventually. And I'm sure everyone has heard of several bridges being collapsing over the last couple of years, as well as dams in India. Also, this is not a problem only in India. Just a snippet of something last year in Amsterdam that happened. So this was directly from a snippet from the news. Another wall collapsed there, and since Amsterdam has a lot of water, Netherlands has a lot of water. This is also an aging infrastructure problem everywhere across the world. So today these inspections, so to say, or these diagnostics are done with divers, but of course they have limitations as they are manual and human in terms of depth. If anyone has done scuba diving, air dive is only up to 15 to 18 meters of depth. And after that, it needs to go to saturation diving. And that also has a depth limitation. Also, a lot of safety risk, a lot of endurance limitations from the oxygen packs the divers take. A lot of manual errors, and eventually some divers are not subject matter experts. So they're seeing something, they're interpreting something, but that could be something totally different from what a structural expert could infer to. So today, most of the inspections, both in India and abroad, for the infrastructures I spoke of dams, bridges, and ports, are done with divers and thus have these limitations. And marine robotics is one of the alternatives when it comes to man versus machine. And it's not new. As you're seeing, they come in different sizes. They're amphibious, crawlers, autonomous vehicles, and some of them can even fit on a palm. And all of them are very sophisticated. Like on the left, you can see robotic arms, quite big. The biggest ones are 2 meter cross 2 meter cross 2 meter. And the smallest ones are as small as something that fit in the palm. So there's not something new that's there. But this is the platform which we've built our complete solution on. And this is the alternative to a human going underwater. So once we got incorporated, we had built a few prototypes back at college. And we started doing some mentoring sessions with some mentors at the incubator. And we also met Mr. Gopal there as well. So a few learnings that we got from these mentorship trainings is this helped us kind of realize what the value was of our solution, because the three of the founders were fresh graduates and two professors. None of us really had experience in maritime or dams or infrastructure fields. Of course, the professors had experience in NDT, but the sectors we were looking at were very different. So we were techies, proud to say. But with these mentorship sessions, we got to know the whole concept of shaping the concept, pricing, costing. How do we realize what to price this at? How do we start selling this concept in a very traditional sector, and so on? Can someone just put themselves on mute? There's some noise coming. Yeah, thank you so much. There's still some disturbance. So whoever is not muted, please mute yourself. Also, along this way, several of these mentors connected us to several experts. These experts were right all the way from structural experts to risk guys, to shipping captains, to people from the Navy, also people from the oil and gas, to kind of get feedback on what is the tech available in the market and what is it that we could do, or the opportunity for such a solution. So key takeaways for us was, yes, as I mentioned, India has a lot of these assets. No one was building indigenous underwater robotic systems at that time in India. There were a few groups, research groups like NIOT, NIO, but none of them were offering this commercially. Also, there is a lot of sophisticated underwater NDT on ROV that was unheard of. So very deep sea oil and gas equipment was using this, but shallow water for the infrastructure we spoke of, there was nothing available, and it was just limited to visual inspection. Also, we learned that these infrastructure will age with time, and India as a country would prefer to extend the life rather than build new. So life extension was the priority for all asset owners, and thus a kind of an inspection and a maintenance solution around this concept could be a good value proposition in times to come for India as a country, and for us to look at India as a market in the long term. So one of the key things here was the mentoring really helped us right through, even though we were just techies, to evaluate the market and go in a direction that probably made sense logically from a business perspective. So with that as learning, we built our first prototype. So ROV mic, as we call it, some photographs of that. We got a small space in the dungeon. One of garage space at one of our labs was kind enough to give a small area to us. And we built something from whatever we had as prototypes. We reused those parts and we built it into ROV mic. a basic visual inspection prototype is what we called it. And we did a few commercial projects with it as well. And there were issues everywhere in electronics, robustness, reliability. This was the first time as techies we were taking a lab product to the field. So field situation is completely different, as several of you may be aware of. So yes, it did work, but it had several issues, and at some places we nearly lost this machine. And then we evolved. We fixed several of these issues. So 6 months down in after building this, we clearly realized that demos is the way to go, because several customers of ours was government, and without seeing, they wouldn't really believe that a new technology would work. And thus pilots for customers was something that we looked at. Right from the beginning, our mentors had told us to kind of price it well or don't price it at all, because every pricing we do in the market will set a benchmark for future. So nobody's going to read the terms and conditions that it was a pilot project or a demo project or cost basis. They're just going to say that, you charge me this for this and you can't increase it now. That was a very important learning for us. And even today, when we onboard new customers, we do follow the same principle, even 6 years down the line. We also realized that after doing a few projects, customers want more than visual. Even though they did not have anything robotic in visual, they got it now. But of course, customer wants more. What can we do more for them was something we had to evaluate. Also, diving is very commonly there all across India, and to sell a new concept of ROV was hard. And we knew that, to look at B2B, B2G in the short and medium term, it had to be through connects and connections. So to get the right person at the right organization, who's the decision maker, to look at this from a long-term perspective or from a value perspective, and then give us an opportunity, was the way to go. So making connections was very important for us. And cold calling, just dropping by these clients, was not something that was working for us at that point of time. Also, product had issues. Visibility, Indian waters are not very clean. Several of you who live across the coast or in parts of Delhi have seen rivers there. They're quite murky, dirty, and industrial wastes are there. Also, marine growth is a menace. When things grow on structures, you can't really see what's happening behind. And we also learned of several new use cases apart from the assets that I spoke of that could be a possibility for us to venture into, like internal pipeline inspection, something not available in dams, bridges, or ports, but available in desalination or power markets as well. So these were our broad learnings 6 months down the line after our first prototype hit the field and we got some customer feedback. And that prompted us to look at raising some capital. None of us really had any savings. None of us had even worked anywhere. So it was, and this is CapEx heavy, and we had to invest in building this. So under the guidance of several mentors, we went to Keiretsu Forum. This was the Chennai, Singapore chapters. Keiretsu is an angel group. Today there are several, but early on there were very few. And we went to the Chennai chapter. They evaluated us, and the round wasn't closed with Chennai, so we got an opportunity to also pitch the Singapore chapters, and we raised some capital there as well. With the Keiretsu network, these are angels, but what they gave us was access to a phenomenal network. So someone who's worked for 30 years in EY in a Middle East country would potentially give us access to Middle East markets in the near future when we look at that. So we were looking at it from that perspective that, any person coming in could add a lot of value to us as the company grew at that point of time. So that was the first time we raised capital. Again, a lot of learnings there of to-dos, not to-dos. But I think there's enough out in the open for several of you to understand what should be done and not. So I won't be covering that today. So with that capital, our team had a lot of more resources to build a team, to invest in another better product, and also to invest in more business development. So dam inspection was something that we started off. So it started off with a conference. Again, conferences are quite underrated today. So we did get an opportunity at a conference. We put up a small stall, and we did get inquiries because several dam owners wanted this. At high depths, again, divers cannot go in dams, and India has 5,000 dams. So our first project came through a conference. They were interested in 80 meters of depth. Foreign players were charging them 10x than what we quoted them. So it was obvious to give us an opportunity. The client had nothing to lose. And our ROV did get stuck due to our inexperience of working at such high depths. But again, somehow we got it back. We completed the project successfully, and the client was elated. It was a good use case for us for DRIP. So DRIP is a World Bank funded initiative at the CWC, Central Water Commission, where several dams are being rehabilitated, and the World Bank is funding that rehabilitation. So it was an initiative where 200 dams were shortlisted in DRIP 1 and so on. So it was a good opportunity for us to, with the right authorities, to demonstrate the value of our technology and also to open a new use case for us in dam inspection. That led to actually 4 more dam projects with DRIP 1, where, of course, the word of mouth spread, and the DRIP organizing committee itself got to know that there's a technology that can help in several other dams in India with this, and that led to a few more projects in dams. So this was broadly a kind of a quick glimpse of how we entered a new market with government, and conference was the way to go at that point of time. Similarly, bridge inspection, this happened quite late, 2 years down the line, where railway bridges, highway bridges are very common everywhere. But who do you go to in a very large organization of railways was very difficult. So one of our BD leads was actually swimming, and between swimming laps, there was another person swimming, and that person was actually a railway authority. So they just got to discuss, and he figured this is something they could use. And we went to his office, we pitched to him the concept of underwater robotic inspection. So he gave us one of his toughest bridges where he's not got any inspection done since construction because the water was murky. So we took that, it was a free demo, and we were able to make it work in turbid waters after some innovation we did with lights and cameras. And we realized that most bridges in India will be murky and turbid. So if you're able to make this work, it would be a good value proposition, a good entry barrier as well, sooner or later, to have this with us and not with anyone else. Even divers couldn't do anything there. So that was our first entry into railways. That started with a demo, eventually became a pilot. Then these authorities sent a note to their railway ministry, and then we also got an opportunity to present there of the technology there. So that was the first seed sown even for railway bridge inspection that was done in 2017 or so, of again a new technology solution in this. Also, we were fortunate that aerial drones were already very well used in railways, so they had a flavor for some new technology, and we did get a lot of people interested in this, and that's when more inquiries started coming in for bridge inspections, especially in turbid waters. That started to become our USP there. And then gradually, we had a few good customers who started using us. We gave our first dashboard solution where we also realized that the data comes in very hard formats, PDF reports or raw formats. So we created some kind of a dashboard there. Also, internal inspection of pipeline is something we covered as a new use case. And then we had several marquee customers starting to use us as they saw value with our tech. So this was broadly in the next couple of years, year 2 and 3, where we also built a new product, ROV Beluga, with the learnings of the first product. This was the first engineered product, so to say, from our team. And again, a lot of variables, a lot of things we did for the first time, and found our way finally into building something quite reliable. So again, coming to the learnings of everything that I just spoke of, we didn't really have a benchmark to price this. How do we price a technology solution that doesn't exist? It's a new category creation, and diver is not a one-to-one comparison today. So it's completely unmanned. No, it's a new category creation. And we realized that every sector had a different capacity of paying, and we had to figure out what had to be a roadmap to pricing that was profitable for us. At the same time, it would be a good value to a customer. No point in overpricing it because we had foreign players pricing it at 10x. But there could be some room for improvement for us as well. So I think that was something you're figuring out. Conferences, as I mentioned, were a key to connect because it's a specific conference for a bridge we would have bridge engineers come to that. So we would get the contact details. If someone would have a problem, they would speak to us. Similarly, a dam specific conference had dam engineers. So I think it was very important for us to find the right conference, the right visibility in the right forum. And I understand today several of you would have gone to conferences and found it to be a waste of time. I think 80% of our conferences were also a waste of time, but the remaining 20% gave us enough contacts to kind of move on and get more projects or get an audience with the relevant people. Also, we learned, concept selling to the government is very tough, longer cycle for convincing, but it was worth the effort now that we realize it, because it was a completely organic sell where it was a demo, pilot, commercial order, and then larger commercial orders. Also, as the projects evolved, even our tech evolved as we kept innovating and kept improving it. And with customer feedback, even that customer-centric product solution evolved as well. So over these 3 to 4 years, without the customer, we wouldn't have been able to build a product or a solution that we have today. So it is thanks to them and their feedback and their patience, we kept building a better solution for them. And I think by the end of 3 years, we had done about 30 projects, 2 product developments with a very, very lean team technology. But we were somewhere glad that we were actually solving a problem. Customers were willing to pay for it, and we were getting a lot of cold inquiries as well. So broadly, a product market fit was achieved with whatever we had there. And lastly, at that point of time, we of course had burned capital for 3 years, but had achieved something. We needed more capital, more resources, more space for our team, better equipment, better facility, because we grew out of the IIT Madras campus and the ecosystem in terms of the space, because we needed a pool. It's underwater robotics. We need a pool to test, and a bucket was not good enough for that. So it was time to kind of move out, look at our own space, invest a lot more in equipment, and that prompted us to do the next phase, where we did have a lot of things checked, and we needed to go on further to scale that technology solution further for India. So again, fortunate to have several family offices from Chris's team, Ranjan's team. We had BPCL, ONGC also coming into the round, and then we had existing investors from Keiretsu Forum who joined us, who further supported us. So we raised about 2 million in equity and the remaining in grants. And the aim here was that what we've built till now, we had to scale that in India. And once we had enough pedigree in India, to focus on abroad markets. So the capital was more used to scale that, to enlarge the team, and to move to a new test facility and give whatever is required to move on. This fundraise was also a lot of learnings for us in terms of deep tech company, a new category creation, marine robotics, services, government. So a lot of learnings from there, that what works, what doesn't. Again, I won't be covering that today on the funding aspect. But again, very fortunate to have business leaders today in India who supported us, who believed in our vision, and who also guided us till today on several things there. Fortunately for us, the railways loved our solution, and they put a policy in place, a draft policy that was to be there for 2-3 years, where, as you can see on the left, underwater inspection of bridges by remotely operated vehicles. So I think we did the demo in 2016. So it took 2 years for this guidelines to come. So they evaluated our technology. They had several people review this in the field, and depending on the limitations and all, drafted a policy or a guideline, not really a policy, a guideline for inspection of bridges with robotically. And all the zones were asked to kind of further do some more projects, give feedback to the railway authorities, and then eventually this would become a more crisper guideline in some time to come. Similarly, the DRIP authorities also took notice of the tech and felt it was time to put some safety guidelines into inspection of dams with aerial drones and underwater drones. And that also found, we also found this technology into the books of the manuals, the safety manuals of Indian dams. So these were two lucky wins we had in these where with the technology, the authorities loved it, and we had a few guidelines put in place. Now that led to, of course, the authorities coming back for more, and we got a few more opportunities for bridges. I think we pulled off at least 15 more bridges in the next year compared to 3, 4 bridges on the year before that. We also used that capital to build more ROVs, build more capacity. So from 2 ROVs, we had about 6, 4 more, and then we scaled the team accordingly. We also won a contract for highways. So once the railway bridges kicked off, we also replicated that for state highways, and 40 bridges we inspected after that in different states there. So again, these bridges were some of them British era, had never been inspected. Some of them had only done underwater inspection, had never really done underwater. And so hence there were several assets they wanted us to inspect in the go, and so on. So this happened. Parallelly, we also opened up some new use cases in refineries, in petrochemical plants for above water man-made storage tanks. So these were storage tanks, some used in steel plants, refineries, petrochemical plants. And the interest here was without removing the water, without dewatering, they wanted to get data from underwater cases. And they couldn't send divers here because they had some protocols there. So again, this was an extension. Even these customers got it done for the first time ever. It was the first time for us. But these 2 projects were a stepping stone for our Saudi expansion later, because this again gave us confidence, gave us use cases, and also created new case studies for us. We built a new test facility. We had to convince someone to allow us to dig a pool in our office so that we could test this. Several of our team members working nights wanted to test it at 4 a.m. Of course, we can't go to a commercial place at 4 a.m. So we had to build this. So this is still our R&D center, a test facility where we built a pool, had some machines, a hyperbaric chamber. Also use this to train our pilots and train our crew for different SOPs for services in as the company grew. Our tech team still works out of this facility. It's in Chennai, close to Velachery. So gradually, as one of the milestones of our previous fundraise was also international scale up. So we found an accelerator, Port Excel, which was focusing on maritime space. So it was basically an accelerator program by the Port of Rotterdam to look for companies that could add value to different clients in the maritime sector. Could be oil and gas companies, could be shipping companies, could be port authorities. And we were one of the companies selected in the 2019 cohort with the aim of scaling in the Netherlands. So a lot of hand-holding we got from them on setting up an entity, working with customers there, selling our value proposition there. Our team spent close to 4 months there, and we ended up signing a few contracts. So we had a two-seater office on the right bottom with that was a Planys office there for about 6 to 8 months. And yeah, we pulled off 4 projects for local municipalities, oil and gas companies. Port of Rotterdam is one of the most innovative ports in the world, and another port in Netherlands. A great learning experience. The visual inspection that we did in India was very basic there. They wanted much more in terms of more detailed NDT. So this was the first time even we ended up doing NDT in the field. After promising customers for a few years, this was the first time we did it. And a very different approach from these innovation teams. All of these 4 organizations we worked with had specific innovation teams who were looking for very specific solutions, and we fit their bill. So yeah, great experience for our team for pulling off these pilots in a very new country. But thanks to Port Excel, we got a lot of support in logistics and with customers. And then eventually we ended up doing a few more projects for the local municipality. So everyone there was very happy with this, because diving again has a huge safety problem, and safety is the highest criteria in the Netherlands. So they were very glad to ensure the diver doesn't enter water. We have a robotic unmanned system and a more sophisticated data capturing system that could do work. There were a few competition there who could do basic visual inspection. So what worked for us was our dashboard here, and more than visual, the more sophisticated NDT, thickness measurements using sonar or ultrasound was something that worked for us here. So with that, we also started entering the Saudi market. We got a couple of partners here, local partners who we partnered with, who already had these customers. And the customers, again, had never got these assets inspected without taking shutdowns, which means they would dewater it, send people inside, and it would be a huge timeline and cost. Compared to us putting it when there was water, evaluating the full asset. And some of these were found in pristine condition. So they would never take inspection shutdowns for the next 10 to 12 years based on our data. And we proposed to them that they can inspect it again after 3-4 years to check if things are okay. We learned that there was a very high paying capacity for technology solution that helps them increase their efficiency. Because Saudi is one of the largest exporters of petrochemical and oil. So of course there's a lot of money, but the world tries to sell to them. So they get the big players from the US and Europe to also sell. But we were still very confident that our tech would give them a different perspective, and actually they did not get the value from someone else, and we were game. So so that was a huge kind of 0 to 1 input for us in the Saudi market. And within 3 to 4 months, we were in 2 geographies apart from being in India. It was very overwhelming for the team. We were stretched very thin to operate in 3 geographies and deal with the practicalities of working abroad. And again, coming to a few learnings. So we realized that pricing was wishful thinking. We need to evaluate the value. What are we saving for the customer? What extra he's getting from us? And kind of explore what pricing could be. And in some cases, the pricing was 2x to 3x of what we initially went with. And customers were happy to see the value and pay for that. So that was something that we closed on, that pricing. After 4 years, we realized, what kind of pricing works. Conferences, again, as I mentioned, we found our Netherlands and Saudi partners in a conference. They came with looking for technology companies that would be a good fit for their markets, and we just happened to meet them there. Without these conferences, we wouldn't be in these 2 geographies, or it would take longer or another route. Also, accelerator programs are the best ways to scale up in new geographies. You get handholding, you get a lot of legal compliance support from them, and if they have equity in your company there, or there's a different arrangement, like for us, there was a form of, we didn't have to give equity, but we had to give some form of payment to them to help us. That worked for us. We didn't have to even give equity. But that was good. And it was a thematic accelerator program. It was not a very generic one. It was particularly to our sector. I believe that is one of the good ways for any company to look at a new geography. Of course, there are several other ways as well, but we found this to be very helpful. We also learned that managing and building a multidisciplinary team from R&D, tech development, manufacturing, field services, business development for different sectors that had different acumen has its own rewards and challenges in terms of backups, in terms of redundancies, and so on. So those were the great learnings where we had to ensure the org structure was such that there was succession planning and redundancy as well there. And there are several nightmares of working in new geographies related to immigration and compliance, because after all the effort, you get a customer who's willing to pay and you do projects, you don't want to be caught off guard from compliance. So we did a lot of research and into these markets from compliance perspective. Also, the local accelerator programs helped us a lot. They had several teams answering several questions for us and helping us set up entities and getting all our paperwork sorted. Also, there are several bilateral agreements between countries. So for whichever countries any companies look to, you will always get a help in India. Like there are several ones for Germany and Netherlands, where there are people deployed in India to help Indian companies scale up abroad. We didn't know about them. Otherwise, our work would have been reduced to half. So do look out for these people or these groups through the embassies. That will help. Several people who approached us for Netherlands later on, once they got to know, we connected them to these groups. And I think that would have saved them a lot of headache in immigration, in compliance, and so on. Lastly, a lot of them asked us, with us being a young startup, with having about 50, 60 odd projects in India, how could customers in Netherlands and Saudi Arabia even trust us? Because it's very easy for a small company to screw things up or not do things properly, and the consequences could be large for these large organizations. But again, what worked for us was a prior experience in execution. So we walked the customer through the logic. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? This is our pedigree. This is what we've done. And the significant value add of our tech, of course, that was no match to the competition. So these are the 2, 3 reasons why the customers had confidence in us, that yes, it seems like these guys know what they're talking and they'll be able to pull these pilots off, because the customer himself had not done these pilots, had not deployed underwater robotic systems into their assets. So we had to ensure that they were convinced and they didn't have any apprehension, and that worked for us there. So several learnings for us at the scale up stage, especially abroad projects and as well as in India, that worked for us. So that is till about pre-COVID times, I believe. And today, wanted to just give a gist of where we are, what are we doing, and a few closure learnings, and then I'm done with sharing some 2 cents of our journey. So today, Planys' technology has 3 broad verticals. We have a robotic platform. We have different systems, submersible, and we have 2, 3 platforms depending on the use case, whether it's pipelines, what kind of entities required, and so on. Then we have different sensors onto them, very sophisticated sensors, right from corrosion monitoring for steel, for concrete, for again, corrosion monitoring without cleaning, again, one of its kind, where you don't need to clean, but you can get the data set for what traditionally is done. So this is the payloads and the analysis of the data that comes. That also is, so it's not just plug and play. There's a lot of background expertise that's required to evaluate the data, analyze the data, and interpret it in the right way so that the customer can appropriately take the decision. And then comes the third aspect, which is the data visualization analysis dashboard. That is one of its kind in the marine industry. I know some of you may be thinking that dashboard is something very standard. Every IoT company, every drone company, every sensor company has one. But our industry still was relying on hard copy of reports, huge spiral bind of reports, and so on. So again, this was a great value add to several of our international and national customers. And today, several inquiries that we get, they want this, as in this is something that they cannot do without today. So this is something that has again worked for us. So that is our technology solution that we focus on data capturing, analysis, and reporting. And we started off with basic visual inspection, so to say, but today it's much more end to end. Also, as part of a QDIC program with Qualcomm last year, we also developed an IOUT solution, Internet of Underwater Things. So again, there's a very large ocean on Earth. You have a lot of data sets that need to be collected, but physically laying cables is not possible. But you can drop sensors from the top. And we can use underwater drones as data collection platforms that can surface up and relay that and dive in underwater, because communication from water to air is possible, but speeds are very low, and only defense in the defense they have some tech that can send Morse and very limited data, but sending high resolution data sets is not possible today. But this is the way we can do it, and thanks to Qualcomm and its communication technology with 5G, we were able to demonstrate this. Again, an extension of what we were doing, and 2 ports today are interested to deploy this. So till today, ports, we had a lesser value proposition for ports, but with this technology solution, I think our story for the ports has changed to a smart port solution rather than just an inspection story. So this is something very new over the last 1 year we've added. So today, Planys works in 3 geographies and will scale up in Singapore later this year. And we've executed 160 contracts. You can see some marquee customers across India, Netherlands, and Middle East. A lot of learnings, a lot of fine tuning to the technology, to how the selling is done. but we're glad from 3-4 years back, where no inspection was done to India's assets, to having open tenders being raised every now and then, calling for these inspection projects there. Also, simultaneously, our R&D team also partnered with several organizations, several research groups to collaboratively develop these technologies. A few accelerator programs we were part of, or we are recently part of with Shell and Vedanta, and several other Government of India initiatives with BPCL and IDEX in defense and all. So again, it's a good way. There are several grants, there are several domain-specific schemes where if your company or your technology is a good fit, you could get some grant, some capital for technology development, which could be further commercialized. And for a deep tech company, I think there is a never-ending list of R&D or new technology to be developed every time. So overall, today, we're proud to have completed 160 projects that are split up of different assets we've inspected, have about 75 global customers. And we have about 4,000 hours of data that we've recorded that is annotated as a defect and not defect. And this will be a stepping stone for some AI work that we'll be doing in the future for using this data to make more meaningful decisions. Again, something very new in the maritime industry that we are aware of today. So, and lastly, a few awards we won. Again, our teams, in the startup ecosystem, there are several awards and everyone is winning awards. Our aim was to look at awards in our sectors, because with B2B and B2G customers, every award adds some kind of credibility to them that, they are working with a company or a startup that is acknowledged at the government level. So our focus was to focus on specific awards. And yes, we were able to get a few awards in petroleum ministry, dams, shipping, and largely on the robotic side of things, or Forbes was more international. So once again, awards, there are several awards out there with cash, without cash. But what it helps is it helps in building some kind of credibility to the portfolio, where at least for us, B2G, B2B customers really valued, or it helped us at least, build on that relation with them, build on some credibility with them, and so on. So coming to the end, I think that's my last slide. Final few learnings, I think for B2B, B2G, several companies always think it's daunting, it's tough. Yes, it is tough. Selling has its challenges, but there are longer term awards. Patience is the key. Where some of the things we did with railways and dams started off with, now it's come to a policy or a guideline level. So this is with working with the customer, working on the product, and having that patience. Experienced sales team is a must. People need to know what are the sales cycles, who are the right people to coordinate. Of course, gray hair helps further. So we did have a lot of senior people who joined us, a lot of consultants we worked with who helped us in different sectors. And as I mentioned, awards help build further credibility. So use them well, apply in the most appropriate, your industry specific awards, and then publicize them in the right forum. LinkedIn, Facebook may not be of useful because several government customers don't use that. So WhatsApp is the way. When we meet them, show them what we've done, could be certain ways. Also, selling a high technology solution in traditional sectors, we worked on the customer experience, the tech followed. We started off with, this is our tech, this is what we can do. But after that, we started realizing that, the customer is going to be the same. Every year for the next 10 years, the customer is not going to change. He's going to have, like, railway bridges is going to be there for the next few decades or more. So the customer needs to like this. So we work with the customer. We understood his pain points, understood his decision-making style, or the process of a decision-making. Where are the budgets being allotted? How do they decide on the bridges? How do they decide on repairs? And then the cycle continues. So then we started working on how can we help them ease that, make it more efficient, make their decision process easier, or give them better data points to take a better decisions. And that's how our tech evolved. So I believe this is, again, something that a lot of people talk about, that customer experience is the main thing. We also learned a lot of the power of network. we had about several investors. We had a large alumni network. We had a lot of mentors, a lot of industry experts who basically reached out to us saying, you guys are doing something very different. Do let us know if we can help. So we exploited all of that. And when we started working, we started scaling abroad. All we had to do was reach out to these people, tell them our motive of our meetings. And actually in Oman, we reached out to someone and they set up meeting. We had about 15 meetings set up for 3 days of visits. We couldn't even finish all the meetings. So don't underestimate the power of network. As in, some or the other time, at some point of time, it will be useful, and we need to exploit that. We need to be in touch. We need to communicate well with them and get the most out of it. And today we have a very large network of international customers, mentors, advisors, investors, both in Netherlands, Middle East, Singapore, and in India. So it's up to us how to utilize this hard work done till now. Also, as everyone says, a resilient and passionate team is sacrosanct. As in, for several moving parts that at least our journey had, several variables, you need to have patient people, passionate people, and people in it for the right reasons. Only then it's going to work. Only then people will stay for long. And we have several people with us who joined us as an intern and are now team leads. They are team leads leading mechanical, elect departments, and are future leaders for us as we scale. So a very important thing is to nurture young people, identify the right passionate people who will be the baton holders for the company's legacy as the company grows. Lastly, scaling could be monotonous. It is boring. It is very process driven. It is quality driven, and you need a long-term perspective for it. Of course, we are just 6 years old, barely just stepped out of India, and scaling in India. Again, it's just 2 cents from a part of our larger journey. But today we realize that several processes that we set earlier are being fruitful today, and several things we didn't do had to be done. We had to hustle to get it done. So it has to be done with the veterans in the team. Again, for our kind of business, a lateral hire and then telling him to scale may not work everywhere. I understand for several other businesses that could be the way to go. But for us, what worked is get the best people inside, repurpose, redo the org structure, get them where the company needs them, and it helps their growth, it helps the company's growth, and then everyone grows with the company. So with that, I think in interest of time, I won't show the video, but thank you so much for the opportunity. Again, 2 cents of a small journey of a very specific sector that we spoke of. Several learnings. I know some of them may be very cliche learnings, but they were still learnings. So wanted to share that. And happy to answer any questions. And hope, Mr. Gopal, I've covered what you wanted me to cover today.
Thank you, Tanuj. That was really excellent. I think you did cover, and there are a whole host of questions. But before that, I would like to kick it off by asking a few myself, which I also see, and I've got some messages also. What do you see are the challenges going forward, Dave?
One of the key challenges, of course, for us is since ours is a physical execution, is COVID. As in COVID wave 3 India and how vaccinations are going to work globally. Will abroad travel be relaxed for vaccinated travelers? I think that is a tipping point for us.
Any other challenges you see? Do you see? You didn't talk about the recent fundraising you had, the third round. But with that, do you believe that money will not be an issue for some more time, or will money become again an issue? What other kinds of challenges do you see? COVID is a challenge which I think nobody can answer as to when that will get over. Tanuj? I don't know whether we are having connectivity issues with Tanuj. Tanuj?
Hello.
Tanuj, are you back?
Yeah, probably a network glitch. Yeah, I
Okay.
was answering on the challenges thing. Yeah, work from home for hardware companies or for us where a lot of physical work, testing, maintenance is required is little tough to manage, right, from the safety of our people as well as the new world we live in. So that is a short-term challenge again. We've got our folks vaccinated, so hoping for some of these challenges to ease out. So yeah.
Okay, another very specific question, and this question is a little bit unfair given the fact that I know your company well. But you are in the service business and not in the product business as such. So,
Right.
what do you see are the challenges of scaling up such a business in India itself,
Right.
and particularly when you go global? Having large teams globally, how do you plan to sort of scale given these constraints? Yeah.
You can hear me, right, Mr. Gopal?
Yeah. It's more important
Yeah.
others hear you, huh?
Yeah. I know if you can hear me, I'm sure others can also hear me.
Mm.
Yeah. So as in it started off as a product company, evolved into a services because we had to ensure the industry gets the tech in the right way. And we do have intentions of, there's a hybrid model in the middle of renting out the equipment, training, teaching, and so on. So scaling challenges, I believe, would be on the handover of execution. I think that is the most critical one. So we are ready for that. We've created a lot of training modules. We have a proper program for training and handing over kind of execution to local partners. So Planys will not have to travel around to execute these projects in the near future. So basically, it's a McDonald's model where we own the technology, software, hardware, everything, but we have partners who can operate this in the field, and there is a revenue share or a commercial model that way. So I believe as of today, the biggest problem in scaling up would be the handover of execution from us to them. At the same time, in the short-term scaling would be, of course, international business will have some challenges from a execution perspective.
So let me go to some of the questions which are being asked. Ravi Santhanam, do you have an NDT solution to measure draft available depth in ports? A number of major ports are artificial ports, and maintaining draft is a big concern and cost.
Yeah, we have robotic solutions on demand, or we also have real-time monitoring solutions for checking draft or depth of any water asset, whether it's a tank in a refinery to a open port to a dam to a river bridge. So yes, we do have solutions for that. In case there is interest, happy to connect offline and discuss further.
Okay, but don't the ports have bathymetric solutions already figured out?
Yeah, they do have
traditional.
They do have bathymetric solutions which are traditional, but ROV solutions have some benefits where the draft is too low for the boats to go, or the traditional boats cannot go, like below the jetty and in some places inaccessible. So in that case, something like this is our solution
Suresh
is
has
better.
asked a related question. Has any bathymetry study been done in the ports in India?
Yes, we've done for a few ports and we've done for a few dams. We've done that.
Okay. Raghutam Rao has a question. How do you simulate high pressures, say 25 bars in your test tank?
So we have a hyperbaric chamber. So we built a chamber that you can seal, increase the water pressure inside, and we can imitate up to 300 meters of depth in that. So that wasn't visible in the photograph I showed you. It was a separate tank. It's a hyperbaric chamber. So it looks like a big capsule which opens up. You put the ROV inside, you close it, and then you pressurize it. It's a pressure vessel, basically. So that's how we imitate. We test the product before we take it to the field.
Okay. tell me about the challenges which are out there in specifically for funding for deep tech. Do the VCs and the PE players understand deep tech, or are there specific niche players, or how does this go out?
I think it's a very answer to that is every VC fund has a mandate. The VC partners and the LPs understand some form of businesses. Could be internet, could be fintech, could be B2C. So depending on what mandate they've raised the fund on and the mandate of the team, they will go to invest in companies that is a good fit for them, because with that expertise, they can figure out what's the future, what are the KPIs to monitor, and accordingly, whether it's a good investment or not, and how the company is going to scale. So for a slightly different company like ours, like hardware, there are several hardware VC investors, but still this is services, this is maritime services today, rather. This is maritime. Of course, the set of VCs who understand this business is not that much. But we do have a lot of international VCs who have the palate to invest in maritime businesses that have shown interest and have invested as well. And then we do have a small bunch of Indian VCs who also understand this, but most of them are slightly late stage, Series A, B stage, and so on. So it's again finding the right fit of investors who several are in the deep tech space, but that is more on the AI ML part or space tech part. But again, ours is again slightly different when it comes to the sectors, the technology, and the future there. So
how about family offices like Ranjan Pai and Chris Gopalakrishnan?
Yeah, so all family offices, of course, come in at a slightly early stage, pre-series A seed. So they bet on the team and the concept for it, and their mandates, they're not investing someone else's funds, right? They are investing their own funds. So they take a call, and I think that is a little more flexible, where they have a palette to kind of broaden their portfolio and look at different things. And anyways, some of the names you've spoken of are tech savvy investors who understand technology and are very supportive as well. So yeah, so I guess it's about finding the right fit for the company and for the company's future on the value additions of several investors at different stages.
Okay, guys, these are the questions I have till now. Is there any other question which you'd like to ask Tanuj? Okay, then thank you very much. Really, thank you, Tanuj, for preparing so well and I think giving us a good perspective of the various challenges you have had, your growth story. I think you put together a great presentation and a great story. And if I can read what Raghutam Rao has posted in the chat box, Tanuj, great presentation and a wonderful story. Hearty congratulations to you and your team. Best wishes for greater glory. I think, Raghu, thank you very much for these sentiments. It mirrors what I would have liked to say to Tanuj.
Thank you so much, and Mr. Gopal, for the opportunity. And yeah.
Thank you, guys. And the last Saturday of every month would be a session. Okay, I see some new messages.
Yeah, I'm just sharing my email ID in case anyone wants to get in touch offline.
Yeah, that is actually some of the questions which are, how do we get in touch with you, Mr. Tanuj?
Yeah.
So it is tanuj@planystech.com. And we have a guest who says would use your tech in the near future. So Senthil, I think you need to give Mr. N. Suresh's email ID to Tanuj.
Sure, sir.
Okay. So the complete recording of this would be available, and the last Saturday of every month, same time 6:30, would have a feature on what is something good for or what we would think is interesting for the startup ecosystem. Would urge you guys to write to us with ideas on what you would like to discuss, what you would like to see, what you would like to hear, and we will try our level best to bring that to you. Senthil will email each one of you the email ID to which these suggestions can be sent. We really would request you to do that. And thank you once again for participating today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.